Jonathan Hickman is back at Marvel. There was much rejoicing. Now, heading into this, the X-Men I've read were not doing so well. There was a lot of books going around, there was a lot of stories going around, and then Jonathan Hickman was like, I want to come in and fix everything. Like, apparently I haven't read any of the X-Men books. Like, the only book I ever read from the X-Men comics. Yeah, I've seen the X-Men movies, as you've seen my previous videos, but the X-Men comics, I've only ever read, I believe, Dark Phoenix Saga. That was my starting gate and my stopping point. I didn't really read any of the other X-Men stories, like before Dark Phoenix or after Dark Phoenix. But when I was hearing, it was like, yeah, I probably would have been best. So, I'm not discounting that all the stories were bad. Like, I was hearing a lot of good stories, but like when you were saying like, what's the one story that you think is a masterpiece, and everyone will say, oh, it was Dark Phoenix most of the time. Like I said, most of the time, not everyone deemed it a masterpiece. Like, it doesn't really seem to work at box office projections because Hollywood doesn't seem to know how to really make an accurate adaptation of Dark Phoenix, which should obviously be the easiest thing to adapt. It has everything Hollywood wants and everything a creator wants. Deep characters, deep mythology, and then you got the sci-fi epic scope you can do. Why wouldn't Hollywood do that? But that's beside the point. That's a different story for another day when I ever get a hold of Dark Phoenix on Blu-ray and watch it. I never watched it in theaters, and by the time I wanted to or thought about it, it was out of theaters already, so that didn't do well. So Jonathan Hickman came in and was like, I want to come back to Marvel. Well, he didn't actually. Okay, there's a reason why he was brought back. It wasn't because, oh man, Marvel's not doing so well in the war against DC. Okay, well, that's one of them. But the other reason is because previously there was an offer from DC to get Jonathan Hickman. And that was when, and like, they already lost Brian Michael Bendis. Okay, that wasn't really much of a loss because look how the Superman titles are doing the lowest relationship with Clark Kent because Dan DiDio's an idiot. But moving on from that, but the fact that they lost one of their mainstays to DC, they were like, okay, we can't afford another big time talent who we recognize. So let's bring back Jonathan Hickman because Jonathan Hickman actually left Marvel after the events of Secret Wars 2015. And there were some issues between Marvel and him that happened. Like, Secret Wars was supposed to be, including its tie-ins of the Battle Zone, they were supposed to be the only Marvel titles coming out. But then Marvel was like, we gotta pump out all the other news stories coming out that takes place after Secret Wars. And, yeah, Jonathan Hickman was not happy about that. And that led to a lot of bad blood a little bit. And I thought that would probably be a long time before he ever came back. Thank God I was wrong. So, yeah. Sadly, he's not retconning one more day, so we can't do that yet. But yeah, Jonathan Hickman wanted to work on the X-Men. Now, after the experience we got with Avengers, New Avengers, Secret Wars, Ultimate Comics Ultimates, Ultimate Hawkeye, Ultimate Thor, Secret Warriors, S.H.I.E.L.D., Fantastic Four. There are so many books he written. But anyways, as I was saying, the X-Men was something he said he always wanted to do. And everyone was hyped up for this because they were like, this is going to be the big reinvention of the X-Men. This is going to be the big moment that will define them once more. That they're finally going to be back in the spotlight more so. Because they weren't really doing so well. You got X-Men Red, X-Men Gold, X-Men insert color here. X-Men Extreme! Okay, not really, but they might as well have said that at one point. But yeah. So basically what Jonathan Hickman told Marvel, and this was a big move, discontinue all the books. Finish up all the storylines you got and be done. I want to reboot the launch. I want to reboot the lineup. Like, not necessarily reboot the universe, because if you reboot the X-Men, then you gotta reboot all of Marvel. So that probably would be a bad idea. So they just rebooted all the titles and got rid of all of them. and was like, okay, let's congeal them all back together. Let's get them all back together. Let's move forward with some ideas and let Jonathan Hickman take the story. And he had said this is a multi-year storyline he's going to be doing, so we're in for an epic event. But first, we got 2 books, House of X and Powers of 10, which I'm calling Powers of X because that just sounds cooler. So it's going to be a weekly lineup and alternating between back and forth, though there's going to be an in-between where Powers of X will dominate the comic weeks. But I was hyped for this. Like I said, this would be a great starting point for me as a comic book fan to read the X-Men finally, after only reading Dark Phoenix during the Chris Claremont era. So, yeah. So let's get right into it. Also, they were really building this up. Like, they made documentaries saying this is going to be the 5th seminal moment of the X-Men universe side of Marvel. Like, this is going to be the story that's so big and epic. Like, they were really building this up, and a lot of people were hyping, and, like, everyone was like, Jonathan Hickman. Like, I said this, and this was the ultimate compliment I could give, that DC has Jeff Johns, Marvel has Jonathan Hickman. Yeah. In fact, I would have loved to see what Jonathan Hickman would have done with the Justice League. Would it have been on the same level as Avengers and New Avengers were? Like, he would take over Justice League, and really, there's not really a big secondary team that they can do that has the same name. Like, maybe they could probably do an offshoot series called the Legion of Doom, which would have been interesting, a villain side of everything. But yeah, House of X. Let's get right into this story. This was a pretty big build-up event for a lot of people. Like, they were excited. I was excited. So let's get right into it. We open up with the page with blank text, with a blank page with some images, and basically saying, humans of the planet Earth, while you slept, the world changed. Professor X. And then we get to this plant thing. I'm reading the director's cut. Like, yeah, they released 2 versions of it. The standard issue and the director's cut, which is nearly 200 pages. Okay, I'm pretty sure when the collected edition comes out and collects all 12 issues of Powers of X and House of X, is going to be massive. So we see these plants and organic stuff, what looks to be cocoons, and we see a man with a helmet on his head. I'll get to that. And all of a sudden, these eggs start hatching, and people are coming out of them, all naked and whatnot. And sure enough, this guy reaches out and gently touches the chin of one of these grown humans, and he's smiling down at them. And then he says, "To me, my X-Men." Yeah, I found out this is Charles Xavier, and I was like, wait. Isn't he always supposed to be crippled? Like, I do know that there were times he hadn't been disabled. Like, even in the movies, there was a time he wasn't disabled, but, like, everyone recognizes him being more disabled than really being standing up straight and walking. Like, even Marvel's Superhero Secret Wars, the original, comic books are confusing. They had Charles Xavier stand up and move around. But yeah, when I found out this was Charles Xavier, I was like, okay. I know that Cyclops killed him in X-Men vs. Avengers by Brian Michael Bendis, and then he was subsequently brought back later down the road because that's comics. But I don't know. In fact, when I was looking at him, I was thinking, okay, why does he look like the Maker except he had an X-Men helmet on? Or am I supposed to believe that's Cerebro but mobile? I think that's Cerebro but mobile that enhances his mental powers. But yeah, when I was looking at him, he really looks like the Maker. He really looked like the Maker to me. And I did not know why Marvel before Jonathan Hickman. Like, I'm pretty sure he looked like this before all this. Where, yeah, let's go ahead and have him look like the Maker. And from what I heard, Jonathan Hickman said there's like, 92 characters in the 2 series? I think, or he's totaling up to over 180 when he also mentioned 91, or was he referring to heroes and villains? So yeah, this chapter of House of X is titled "The House That Xavier Built." I want to say it. I want to say it. SmackDown is the house that AJ Styles built. So yeah, I had to say that. So then we get to this previous time going on. 5 months ago in Chronica, there's is this nation that was created by the X-Men. I don't know. Like Jonathan Hickman said that we don't need the previous books. Like, this is a jumping on point, but there's some things they probably should have kept in detail. Like, they try to. Like, I know Jonathan Hickman's trying to, but yeah. When you're trying to correct all the mistakes that happen throughout the entire X-Men lineup, yeah. So yeah, there's these flowers being planted. One in Chronica. One in Chronica. Let's see. One in Westchester. One on the blue area of the moon. And one on Mars. One in the Savage Land. One in DC. 2 weeks ago, at the Jerusalem habitat. And sure enough, these four people, the various people that are planting these flowers, are, you guessed it, Bee, Storm, and a myriad of other characters, but mostly I recognize Bee, Storm, and Colossus. And then these four women are going ahead and planting the flowers on the ground. Sure enough, they're at the Jerusalem habitat, and then we cut to now, where basically it's a gigantic fucking quarry going on, and it's taking over the entire building. Ambassador, you look tired. How was your flight? Really? That's your first line of dialogue, sir. You mean to tell me that I'm waking up to the fact that I have to go to a plant that's completely encompassed this building, and you're asking me how my flight was? Yeah, it was a stupid line for him. That guy really did not think that through. Instead, these people are talking, and he just goes on to explain that Charles Xavier decided to deliver a telepathic message to the world, an offer we can't refuse, and here we are, as a habitat I didn't know existed, recognizing the sovereignty of a nation state that I never heard of until literally 4 days ago. How's the saying go? May you live in interesting times. Well, considering this is the Marvel Universe, and now you've had 2 civil wars, several secret wars, heroes and villains fighting on a consistent basis, heroes fighting each other on a consistent basis, multiple people dying and being resurrected, time being broken and refixed again, multiple paradoxes events. Really, that should be like that should be more like a same old every day. So yeah, these people are talking, and a woman with blonde hair shows up and says, "Personally, I settle for a bit of predictability and a good night's sleep. Unfortunately, these things I cannot see happening." Well, at least she recognizes that this is the Marvel Universe. You're apprehensive? I am. It's the designer drug thing, no. It is a problem. A drug that extends human life 5 years, another that prevents disease of the mind, and a third that is the most effective, adapted antibiotic the world has ever seen. You say it's a problem, I would call it a gift. It's not a gift if you have to pay. Xavier's only offering these miracle drugs to nations who recognize his. That's called leverage. God knows none of us would ever dare such a thing. Yeah, basically what Charles Xavier created was basically the cure to end all cures. And basically what Charles Xavier did was, like, he called every pharmaceutical company in existence and says, "Hey, pharmaceutical companies of the world, I just bankrupted you all." Yeah, so basically Yeah, the X-Men basically have their own nation, Kroika, and they've bankrupted the entire pharmaceutical industry. They might as well have, but they're not going to give it unless every nation on existence recognizes their plane of existence as a nation. I want to say something about this. While it is a genius tactic, if you're telling people, "Hey, we got this antibiotic pill that can extend human life for 5 years, prevent all diseases of the mind, and be the most effective adaptive antibiotic in the world, and we're not going to give it to you until you be our friend," they're all going to kill you, or at least try to. Like, granted, they're probably not going to try because you guys are mutants, and therefore you would kick their asses totally and more most likely devastate everything to an irreparable state, but still, they'll try. If there's anything I've learned about human arrogance, we are very, 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 very stubborn. So yeah, they're talking about this trade deals, treaties, the money and power of it all. These are complications people are familiar with, and what she could do is the amnesty of it all. And she asks, "Really? You think so? I seem to remember something someone said once. Something about appearing to one thing while actually meaning another. You're not actually going to quote Sun Tons, are you, Ambassador? Why bother? It's not a war if they've already won." Is that your position, or the position of the Chinese government? I have been ordered, if put it to the question, to accept Xavier's dear. We see the potential of it. Excuse me, ambassadors. We are sorry to have kept you waiting. Please come inside. Welcome to this Chronica habitat. I'm Esmond. This is Sophia. Actually, Sophia is my human name. I'm thinking of taking another. Wow, you suddenly just became annoying. Because I was like, wait, what? You're okay? I get your mutants. In fact, I had to watch Comics Explained video about House of X. Yeah, if I'm correct, I think these are the clones. I'm trying to remember her name. It's been a long time, but yeah, these are clones of one specific mutant. If I'm correct on this, or it was the four women at the beginning when they were planting flowers in the habitat. So they offer drinks and everything, and basically go all nice and friendly because they don't want to start something. But yeah, they're saying, "I'm fine. When will Xavier be meeting? When will we be meeting Xavier?" But then we get an unexpected arrival. Magneto. Charles won't be joining us today. He is otherwise engaged. I admit I'm a poor substitute, but hopefully I'll manage. I mean, like, it's not like I've tried committing terrorist acts, trying to kill people. Well, even though in Secret Wars I was labeled a good guy because my cause was just, but except I never killed people, only that I really killed people. And in one universe I went ahead and sunk half the world through the Earth off his axis, even though I have no power to do so, and wasn't able to lift Mighty Thor's hammer. Yeah, the Ultimatum storyline was weird at best, to say. But yeah, they're surprised. The diplomats, ambassadors are surprised that, yeah, oh yeah, Magneto's here. Please, ambassador, please. Ambassador is fine. Follow me, I'll give you the tour. Yeah, this is where, and then this is where we go into this whole talk of what exactly the nation of Kroika is. It's like they try to build this lore up to make you understand what's going on. I'll try to explain it as best I can, but hold on. Let me see. Okay, so basically what this is basically describing the mutant island and how this whole basically how this government basically operates, and what they have here is explaining the medicines that they create for the humans and the ingredients they have for their gateways, habitats, and there's a no place thing, but they have human pills like human drug L, human drug I, and human drug M, where it basically does all the stuff that they mentioned. Yeah, it's basically lore building on this. It's basically to build lore and information of what exactly is going on. So, anyways, as I was saying, we're continuing off where we get to this another habitat in Winchester, New York, um, which built over the old Xavier Mansion, and yeah, Jean Grey is actually leading a bunch of mutant students of Charles Xavier to this place, and the little boy in green asks, "Can anyone travel through the gateway, Miss Gray, Mrs. Gray?" No, not everyone. Any mutant can, of course. Cronkite recognizes its own, but anyone or anything that isn't a mutant must be accompanied by one, or even then, by one, and even then, we have to ask for permission. You see, Cronkite is very protective, and it's always important to have good manners. Okay, here we go. Just walk through, and then we'll be on the island. And sure enough, all these student children and Jean Grey go through the portal, and yeah, they give a name of all the people coming through, like Sonya Yo, Wrench, Robot Win, Sonos Rex, Scene Cassidy, Banshee, Desmond, whatever Diaz, Fauna, Jean Grey, Marvel Girl, as she's called. The interface has the count at 12, Cypher. Can you confirm? And sure enough, these eyes are looking at everything and freaking out. And really freaky. So yeah, they basically are talking about this nation and its technology and how this whole network was built from scratch, had coding in a language only the people of the island and the mutants speak. Yeah, basically Charles Xavier is later down the line explaining that Charles Xavier imprinted a new language into people's heads. Well, mostly the mutants. It's time to get with the program, Sage. You just bury all the sins and replace it with two good old-fashioned hope. The professor has changed all the rules. Yeah! Screw the old days where everything was crazy and dark and depressing. We even had a storyline where the mutants were nearly wiped out. Wait. I'm representing House of M. And we've entered a whole new world. It's a whole new world! And sure enough, the adorable boy in green basically says, "Whoa, whoa." Yeah, that does about cover it. Yeah, basically she's probably been here multiple times, so she's not surprised. But anyways, the plan is for most of the younger mutants to live in the habitat near the lagoon, but there really aren't any rules regarding that. So if you see somewhere else you'd rather be at, that's perfectly fine. Oh, wow. Look, that's Professor Xavier over there with the hairy guy. Yes, why don't you go introduce yourself? And the hairy guy's name is Logan. Yes, we all know how that. You already know how that guy is. And sure enough, the children are just happy and they tackle Logan, and Logan's all happy and smiling, which is weird for a lot of people, I bet, who never read the X-Men comics, at least. Like, yeah, this image was like, okay, I know Logan at times is happy, and I've seen him in the Logan movie happy at the end when he accepts death and realizes what the sense of peace or family is. But yeah, Logan alive and being laughing and playing with the children is just fun and adorable. Sure enough, Charles Xavier turns to Jean Grey. Jean Grey looks back, and sure enough, Xavier says, not Jean Grey, Charles Xavier says, "Welcome home, Jean. You're safe here. We all are." And Jean Grey sure enough has tears in her eyes. Then we get this more stuff about the island and its place in its area location. Like, specifically, like, the houses that exist, all the houses, like House of M, yeah, and all that. And sure enough, we cut to Space, where we basically see the satellite, these ships orbit over the sun, and all these characters are talking um, about the Forge, and they're just working, having idle chit chat about everything going on, and yeah, basically from what I was hearing about what's going on with the current status quo, Marvel like shields and shambles. From what I heard, why is it not ever in shambles? Okay, Dr. Gregor. You're free to board the station, but keep in mind, the first ship of the Orchis' convoy is approximately ZZ hours, 22 hours away. Yeah, when I was reading that, I actually thought it was said ZZ, and I was like, I'm pretty sure that said 22 hours, but the way it was written was looking like ZZ from here. So if it's not too much trouble, let's start with diagnostics and make sure the place is actually capable of supporting human life before everyone arrives. And the reason why I'm speaking with a faux Russian accent is because saying the word Dr. Gregor in Russian sounds awesome. Okay, Dr. Gregor. I'm perfectly aware of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, Erasmus. But I already have just breakfast, and just maybe I don't want to waste my entire morning beholden to my baser instincts. Protocol is boring. Be bold, I say. Yes, let's be bold and actually risk a chance that we can all die. What? She's engaging the safety override of her suit, sir. Of course she is. And this is why we don't have kids. Yeah, kids are lame. More like they're satanic little creatures of devils, and I'm convinced that they're all going to destroy civilization as we know it if the media and the news likes to overblow about it. Oh god, we're royally screwed. It's about 10 degrees cooler than I like, but I'm guessing that's the environment controls pre-programming to support a full crew. And the air's fine. Dr. Smith, please handle the diagnostics so Ernest will be able to sleep tonight. Dr. Kane, if you don't mind, take a quick look at the power grid. Let's make sure we're converting all the sunlight that's hitting us good and proper like. I really don't want to die of radiation poisoning. Karma, you're with me. Understood. So what do you think? I think mistakes of this scale should take longer than 6 months to build. Truth be told, the forge would have been completed sooner, but the machines got the nitrogen and water levels wrong, and we lost everything in the habitat. It turns out doomsday plans need a bit more flexibility to the closer you get to the sun. I'm not surprised, Doctor. Those are the kind of mistakes men usually make when being overly aggressive. Yes, man is very known to be overly aggressive. I mean, like, just look at Iron Man and Captain America fighting over a bill that makes no sense and was very contradictory against the liberties of freedom. Along with lying and bribing and Captain America being an a-hole and yeah, yada, yada, yada. And they go ahead further explain about about the protocols, the doomsday plans and everything. And basically talking about science, technobabble, yada, yada, yada. And sure enough, we see a gigantic sentinel head being at the center of this giant circle, which is actually a giant solar panel event. And yeah, then we cut to this moment about Stan Lee. Rest in peace, man. Excelsior! And we get some more text about the Orcus protocol, about the Doomsday networks they made, recruitment of assets and strategic operations, advanced idea mechanics, shield, strike, shore, alpha flight, hammer, armor, hydra, hail hydra, as well as funding from black budgets and other human-centric financial considerations, absorption and adaptation of various organizational assets to the next generation infrastructure, build for Doomsday. And basically this shows this makeup build of the various departments, of the various assets they acquired, and it seems advanced idea mechanics is the most popular one in the polls. And then we get to this whole talking about the observations and the protocols being enacted, and how the mutant nation was established and all this text and whatnot, and the command structure of Orcus, led by the director, Dr. Killian Devo, age 63, affiliation with Strike, head of engineering, Zaire Gary, 37, Alpha Flight, military command, Colonel Walker Kenton, 49, member of S.H.I.E.L.D., Dr. Alan Gregor, age 32, affiliation, Advanced Idea Mechanics, Machine Liaison, Sharpender, I'm pretty sure I pronounced that wrong, who's 28, Omega Sentinel, affiliation unknown. And then we get back to Damage Control, which is currently being ransacked by Sabretooth and Mystique, saying how this has gone south, gone south quickly. How much longer? And Sabretooth's currently killing someone. You think it's that easy to sign the combined database of not one but two of the smartest people in the world, copying what we need and then making it look like I was never here? Well, it's not, Mystique. I have limitations, and it's gonna take as long as okay, we can go. And yeah, you probably shouldn't have wasted the effort making it look like we were never here. Others weren't so careful. I think you broke a few of them, Sabretooth. Yeah, well, they are fragile then again. And sure enough, as this continues, they break out a damage control building, and now they never say that's never a good excuse, and yada yada yada. And sure enough, they're attacked by the Terrific 2 of the Fantastic Four. And I'm pretty sure Jonathan Hickman might have had a feeling a little bit in writing the Fantastic Four again, even if it's just for a little bit, because they do show up in this a little bit. Which, look at that, Ben! A bunch of no-good thieves taking stuff that don't belong to them. Now, what do we do with no-good thieves? Nothing nice, Johnny. Both of you, go on. I got this. That's my bold talk for a guy who smells like burnt hair. Smile for me. And sure enough, Sabretooth immediately punched in the face. If we don't get out of here with the data, this was all for nothing. We have to make it to the gateway. So, we run? I think we should run. Yes. Run! To the gateway of death! And sure enough, they're talking about damage control and what's going on with that in the Marvel Universe. Basically, and they go ahead and talk about all these stuff regarding Reed Richards and Tony Stark and what was going on when Reed Richards disappeared for a long time and Tony Stark was temporarily dead, well, in a coma. And they talk about Soul's Anvil, Hammer, The Bridge, Iron Man Mark 5 through 8, Rescue Mark 1 through 2, Anti-Portion Sling, Multiversal Beacon, and yeah. Basically, there's this important data that Reed Richards and Stark know about, and like from what I'm reading, Damage Control took all the data after Reed Richards disappeared, and Stark was presumed dead after the events of Civil War II. So right now, all the rights to these current materials are being contested. So we're getting into the political backup and everything. Then we cut back to the tour guide ambassadors who are currently looking at everything. If you look around, you'll see we've now left the habitat in Jerusalem behind. This gateway leads to this hub, and through this hub we can reach any number of other habitats and gateways, each one a piece of the larger interconnected ecosystem. How do you know which door leads to where? I won't lie, at first it was easy to get turned around. Familiarity helps, but just to be safe, we asked Chronica to grow some signs so no one would lose their way. See? Am I supposed to be able to read that? Of course not. It says nothing. It's gibberish. I will not recognize your languages. It is gibberish to anything that's different from the American language. Well, it's certainly not Russian, English, French, or Chinese, but it is a language. Ours. It's Chronica. And every mutant who lives amongst us has it telepathically imprinted into their cerebral cortex the day they arrive. So you made your own language? Of course we did. One cannot create a distinct culture without it. And make no mistake, that is exactly what Charles Xavier is doing. Come on, let's go through here, shall we? Shall we, you ignorant bitch? I had to say it. As you can see, Kronika is not limited by distance, or elevation, or even environment. Excuse me, I don't mean to spoil the grand tour, but at some point we have to talk about the military aspects of all this. The inherent advantages of being able to move an army any distance without being seen as well. Let's just say you had to throw out a couple thousand years of military strategy out the door. You're not going to have a problem with this. Yeah, that's understandable from the government perspective and people perspective, because what you just basically told these ambassadors who could probably be corrupt at any moment, and reveal this to the enemy of who hate mutants, to say, hey, the mutant nation we're dealing with that's rising in pharmaceutical bankruptcy in our industries. Yeah, they also have access to portals that could go anywhere in the world, and an army could come through any of them. All our strategies are thrown out the window, so we're kind of stuck. So we're kind of going to suck at this, aren't we? But sure enough, they try to reassure what you see isn't where you see an instrument of war. I see an unassailable refuge. That's quite a difference. Some would call that semantics. Either way, it's an advantage. There's never been a mutant war, Ambassador. We never conquered a people, stolen their land, or made slaves of the vanquished. That's our real advantage. Excuse me, but when are we actually going to go to Kronika? Well, at this point, Kronika is as much of an idea as it is an actual place. But if you mean the main island itself, we won't be going there. Why not? You have heard Charles Xavier's offer. The humans are the evolutionary inheritors of the world. All of it. But instead of claiming it, we are giving it to you and keeping only a small portion for ourselves. The island you see is ours and ours alone. Man is not welcome there. And sure enough, we cut back to the Fantastic Four fighting. The terrific two of the Fantastic Four trying to apprehend trying to apprehend Mystique, Creed, and Computer Science Boy. And basically Mystique is yelling, Creed, we're leaving! Quit funking around and let's go! And sure enough, right when Mystique and the others escaped, and Sabretooth was about to go, he is immediately captured by the Invisible Girl, or Invisible Woman. Nice of you to show up, Sue. How'd you know where to cut them off? It was actually pretty simple once you identified them, and there was really only one place they could heads up, the gate's activated again. And sure enough, who steps out of the gate? How wonderful, the Richards family. Cyclops, the guy who killed Charles Xavier. And you, Ben, I hear you got married. Mazel tov. Ah, thanks, Slim. Of course, and everyone else is fine? Doing well? You know, just the normal fireworks, Cyclops. Where would life be without little surprises? So, shall I take Mr. Creed off your hands? But we just caught him. Why would we do something like this? Like that? You're a smart man, Dr. Richards. I know you know what amnesty means. I do. I also know that Sabretooth broke any number of laws in the last hour, including no small number of injuries to gods, and a high probability that some of those injuries are significant, possibly fatal. Are you really offering amnesty from that? It's upsetting, I know, but I'm afraid we are. New beginnings demand a wide breath. Then I think I have a problem with that. And they stare at each other. Fair enough. I can see you feel strongly about this. Well, why don't you keep it? We'll deal with it some other time, some other way. What? Are you fucking kidding me, Summers? Shut up. Cyclops, this amnesty, the other things Xavier is doing. What are you all you thinking? My family has spent our entire lives being hunted and hated. The world has told me that I was less when I knew I was more. Do you honestly think we were going to sit around forever and just take it? Of course not. But it's really simple, Susan. I believe in what Charles Xavier is doing. Please, greet your son for me. And tell him when he's ready, he has a family on Chronicus waiting for him. And he soon departs, leaving Sabretooth behind. And then they talk about the Omega level mutant threat thing. Both Magneto and Forge are powerful mutants, and how they're, and basically this classification system is, and for example, while Jean Grey is both a telepath and a telekinetic, she is only an Omega level telepath. And they give a name and alias to all these people, like Jamie Braddock, Monarch, Reality Manipulation, Quantum, Robert Drake, Joshua Foley, Jean Grey, David Haller, Eric Lesser, Kevin McTarget, Tagarit, Absent whatever, some other names, Franklin Richards, who's the only human of what seems to be mutants among the mutant people, Gabriel Summers, Hope Summers, and they list out their aliases, like Franklin Richards calls himself Powerhouse, creative. And they also list out their Omega level powers, and Franklin Richards is deemed also big because his reality manipulation is universal and not quantum. And they also go ahead and, like, Storm's also among them for weather manipulation. Mr. M is matter manipulation. Hope Summers and Gabriel Summers operate power and energy manipulation respectively. And they talk about the Omega Protocol, saying while there is believed that a greater domino is possible through collective means, it is a current priority for the mutant nation of Kronika to protect and nurture its greatest natural resource, Omega level mutants. All efforts are to be expanded in order to secure the future of the state. One people, one tribe, one family. Yes, I'm pretty sure T'Challa would love to hear you rip off his line. So we get back to Jerusalem, the Kronika habitat, and basically this. So, Magneto said, staring into the distance, what have we learned here today? That in return for recognizing Kronika as a nation of good standing, you will... No, I wasn't speaking to you. Will our host ambassador from Israel decide to join her fellow representatives from the Security Council today? She's with them, but not with them? She's also ex-military and doesn't really care for them, or you for that matter, but that's no surprise. As for the others, well, they've been trained to withstand telepathy, just not trained well enough. They're all plants, sir. What? Outrageous! Maya Mullen is the actual head of State of Science office. Both he and influential members of Parliament are eager to agree to our terms. They see the political and scientific opportunity our amnesty represents. Jean Perry Cole actually is an ambassador, but he brought it with his private sector pharmaceutical money. He'll agree to Xavier's terms if we allow special access to our drugs. It's how they say a win-win. Natalia Volklock is a Red Sky senior operator who would never have agreed to our terms. It's even more true now that she knows that others would. Am I right, or am I right? If this is what we have become, it might be best if we were replaced. Walter Riffin is interesting. He's an agent of strike, but he actually doesn't care about any of this. He's just here because he's been assigned to watch. Riley Marshall, who is an ex-SHIELD and SHORE Black Ops agent, there's some other affiliations, but he's fighting me. Get out of my head. Oh, and he also has a weapons on storage. Would you like me to do something about that, sir? No need. And sure enough, Magneto takes the gun and immediately removes all the pieces of it. I wasn't going to use it. It was for my protection. Of course, that's how it always starts. Should I show him out? Basically, what Magneto is saying, like, well, at first it starts as protection, then it starts to become used against us, then we'll be trying to slaughter you, that I am different, you are different, therefore we somehow can't coexist, and therefore you're going to use it on me because your viewpoint outweighs my viewpoint. No. Oh. Some would be offensive at a wolf presenting as a sheep, but I've learned hard lessons from your kind, so I know the truth. You are all wolves. And it's good that you are here, all of you, as you really are, so you can run home and tell your masters what you have learned. I want you to tell them. Charles Xavier has made you an offer. One full of grace and brotherly want, but one that is also written in stone. This is not a negotiation. Things will be different now, and the sooner you realize the finality of your situation and the inevitability of ours, the sooner you will learn to be grateful for the things we are so generously giving you. Do you know what you sound like? I do. And it feels good to finally say it. So you summoned us here to Jerusalem to what? Threaten us? A promise is not a threat, Ambassador. I summoned you here to this place for wholly superficial reasons. You see, I know how you humans love your symbolism almost as much as you love your religion. And I needed you to understand this. Magneto turns as the sun sets on the dawning of a new mutant age. You have new gods now. And that was a badass way to end the chapter. So yeah, first issue is over with. And yeah, we get this little blank X symbol stuff saying I have a new word for the lexicon of man, Kronika. And in the future when you speak it, make sure you do so softly and with proper deference, for we will be listening. And sure enough, we get this whole reading order of how the two series are one. Like, we're going to get House of X, Powers of X 1, House of X 2, Powers of X 2, Powers of X 3, House of X 3, House of X 4, Powers of X 4, House of X 5, Powers of X 5, House of X 6, and Powers of X number 6 as well. That ends on October 9th. So this is going to last from July 24th all the way up to October 9th. So this is going to be an epic 12-part series event, so I'm ecstatic. And sure enough, we get to this whole director's cut portion of everything. And there's these languages we're looking at about the future of mutant kind, of Powers of X and House of X. But what we get next is just a list of all the variant covers were given, and varies from some of them on here. I just want to choose the best ones I could find. Not all of them, because that would take forever. And we even get the full script of House of X issue number 1 with some redactions, so certain things aren't revealed regarding future issues. But yeah, it was a pretty cool issue. Jonathan Hickman's epic event for the X-Men is really showing forth. I love this whole perception of the new nation of Kronika that basically says we have all the power, but we're not going to do anything with it in terms of conquering the world, even though we could. Because there's a lot of stuff that happened between Dark Phoenix's time and, well, to now. And basically mutants almost died out from House of M. Mutants were reborn. Nations were destroyed. Islands were destroyed. Things were rebuilt. Populations were wiped out. Basically, the mutant race has not been in a good state and only gets more and more problematic with the world. So they went ahead and formed this powerful nation that, even though it's a small island compared to all the other nations, it is very vastly powerful through its interconnected ecosystem. This issue in particular was just basically a, hey, here's this giant nation, here's all the stuff we want to tell you about it for new readers, and basically was showing you the leadership, the structure of the government, the structure of how it all works. And sure enough, it certainly succeeded in that portion, and shows that not everything is now simple anymore, where Cyclops just can't say hand over Sabretooth. Instead, it's more like, okay, you can keep Sabretooth. We'll negotiate about this, because now he's no longer part of a group of people that usually deal with these kind of things. It's more like you're a sovereign nation, therefore and he broke international law. So there's a lot of depth in politics going on in this. So it's going to be interesting where this goes with House of X and Powers of X. So it's going to be a fun, wild time to see how all this goes for Jonathan Hickman. All I know is that I haven't been reading a lot of Marvel comics of the modern days nowadays after post Secret Wars 2015, because a lot of people keep saying Marvel kind of went downhill after that, and now I'm more of a DC nut, but I still love Marvel a lot. Like Marvel went down a little bit at times, like One More Day from Spider-Man and the constant rejection that he has to be single because that's the high school way, even though he's in his goddamn mid-20s to early 30s. But yeah, this is the dawning of a new era for the X-Men, a seminal moment, part 5. So it's going to be interesting where this all goes. I just wish Stan Lee was here. I would have loved to hear his thoughts on this event. But I'm looking forward to the next issues coming out next week and the week before, and the week after that, and the week after that, and the week after that. This is going to be an epic 12-issue series, and I will definitely be buying the hardcover or paperback when they come out with it. So my thoughts on House of X issue number 1 is basically this. It was awesome. I love that Jonathan Hickman's back at Marvel. Marvel certainly needed it from a creative standpoint because, they're still the top guys in the comic book industry. DC is catching up with them creatively, despite best efforts from Dan DiDio to screw that all up, with Heroes in Crisis as one example. But DC's certainly catching up with them on that. In fact, I think they took over their spot for a little bit about a month ago. So, yeah, their throne is really being threatened here. So, let's see how this goes. Let's see how House of X and Powers of X goes. I can't wait to see what Jonathan Hickman has in store for this. And it's going on to do an X-Men series, monthly issue series of X-Men, which I will hopefully be able to look up and read about and even talk about. I'm still debating whether or not I should talk about them individually issued or story arc issues where I would talk about several issues at once. Once that make up an entire storyline, then move to the next and move to the next. So those were my thoughts on House of X issue number 1, the house that Xavier built. This was Neo Reality Entertainment. For you like, comment, subscribe, and donate. Stay tuned for more, and welcome everyone to the seminal moment of the X-Men's rebirth.